Aaron Price. This is over here, Beatie Wolfe. And we have had Beatie perform at both of our innovation festivals. We got to know her when we were looking for someone doing something innovative with music, and someone suggested that they saw her at South by and she was doing some really cool stuff. And so I'm really excited to introduce Beatie Wolfe. We're going to talk today about her entrepreneurial journey and the future of music. Hello, Beatie. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, it's great to join you.
So where are you from and where are you now?
So I'm from London. I was born there. I've only ever lived in the UK, but I'm half American, half British. So right now I'm kind of using my US passport and just spending some time over in LA.
So how did you get into not just being a musician, but then your approach to music with making things interactive? And I want mention the jacket that I know we talked about the first year. We'll start with that.
Yeah, so I think it's really been it's really been a long process in terms of something I've been thinking about really since I was 8, which sounds crazy, but I started writing songs very young, sort of around that age. And at the same time, I discovered my parents' record collection. And I loved stories. I would sort of constantly be making up stories, but then I saw these records and I saw them almost as musical books that you could open up and read like a story, and you'd have the liner notes and the artwork and this amazing backdrop for the story of the record. And then of course there was also a ceremony to the listening process, where you'd go and put the needle on and you'd sort of have this headspace and you'd really enter into the world of that album. And so that left such a deep imprint on me as a kid that, around that time I was kind of imagining like, oh, what would my album sound like? But I was also imagining what would it look like and what would it feel like? And sort of the tangibility and aesthetics of that. I wanted to sort of think about how you could reinterpret the vinyl for today. So the first album was this 3D interactive vinyl for your phone, which basically had everything that a traditional record has, but as this vinyl app. But then you could slot your phone into this little Japanese device, and it turned it into a theater for the palm of your hand. So you were able to sort of watch this performance in this really intimate way. And that was pre-AR, pre-VR, but it was very futuristic, and people just loved it. So that kind of began, what then led on to the musical jacket, the deck of cards, and obviously the recent project with Bell Labs for Raw Space. There's a lot of winging it. Like I remember a big part of what determined the success of the app was having like Apple feature it, and we didn't actually have the beta version ready. We had this meeting that sort of everything was hanging off. We also had GQ planning to do this big premiere of it without even knowing if we could make the thing work. So they'd like scheduled all this, put aside all this space, content space for something that at the time we were like, we just don't think we're even going to be able to make this happen. And I remember going into this Apple meeting and literally getting the beta version like an hour before and just thinking, and I hadn't had a chance to test it out. So I was testing it out, in this meeting as if, oh yeah, this is like, I know.
It just works. Of course it works.
But I feel like once you have pushed yourself into a hole, or not a hole, like a corner where there's so many things riding on that, actually happening and functioning and working, you make it happen. That's what I've had with the musical jacket, with Raw Space. Like there have been so many, timing, practical tech, are we like with Raw Space, just the fact that no one had done a live 360 video on YouTube and they had to shuffle their whole back end around, but no one had ever done live 360 in AR. That was happening in real time and also part generative. So that was like an insane amount of just data and bandwidth that was needed, and the vinyl player was literally going for a week. And we had tons of glitches, we'd have it where like the needle would skip and the visuals would start skipping, or like you just enter into the matrix during that live stream of like, what the hell's going on? But I kind of feel like there's no way of pushing things forward if you just do what is comfortable. You know,
Yeah.
with streaming, like I was thinking, okay, what is the streaming process missing out? What are we currently losing or not experiencing when we listen to music? And obviously, again, it's the lyrics, you know, it's the liner notes, it's the artwork, it's the sense of an album, you know, sometimes there's a story. And so I was thinking about this kind of anti-stream idea, like, okay, if this is streaming, what is the anti-stream? And at the time I was thinking about that, I just happened to be on site at Bell Labs. And one of the engineers, you know, we were working through a rehearsal for something. And one of the engineers said, you know, would you like to come and, you know, be in what was the world's quietest room, you know, our anechoic chamber, where engineers could hear the blood, you know, rushing through their veins, and where rogue frequencies and psychoacoustics and all of these breakthrough sound discoveries were made. And of course, you know, I was being like a super geek. I was like, yeah, sounds amazing. So, you know, but I was warned. The guy said, look, you won't be able to stay in there longer than 10 minutes. And, you know, people start to get a bit sort of freaked out. So I had my guitar and I was kind of thinking, okay, I'll go in there and then I'll have to leave, you know, and I was preparing myself for that. And as soon as he closed the door, and it's this huge 15 meter by 15 meter room, which is so bizarre because from that perspective of like no reverb, no echo, you know, the room is entirely sound absorbent, but because it's so large, your mind has to adjust to the fact that nothing is bouncing back, even in this vast space. So you're speaking and actually the sound is incredibly close, even though you've got all this space around you. And as soon as I went in there, it was like actually being at the house in Montague, you know, Montague Square, where the musical jacket ended up sort of coming to life. It was this sense of like, this room has such history and resonance and, you know, I mean, ironic resonance, but just I immediately felt calm and reflective, and it was just incredibly peaceful. It was almost like going back into the womb. You know, you're in this little bubble. And I just fell in love with this room. I absolutely fell in love with it. And I started playing music in there. And if you think about, you know, music as the silence between the notes, the silence was so profound. It was just incredibly beautiful to hear sound and music like that. And then also it felt like the music kept on stopping and starting because of this like deep silence. So I ended up being in there for, you know, I thought it was 10 minutes and I came out and it was like 3 hours later and everyone had gone home. And I just immediately thought, okay, anti-stream, you know, anti-echo chamber, there's something in this. Like, imagine bringing those two things together. And so then I started thinking about this anti-stream. Okay, so we'll set up a vinyl player in the middle of the anechoic chamber, and we'll have the record playing on repeat as a physical stream for a week, where people can log in and they can explore that room in 360 and like have this amazing feeling of being in the chamber and hearing sound in the chamber. But then, you know, they can't shuffle, they can't fast forward, they can't do the things they'd usually do when they're streaming music. And then again, to bring all the artwork and the lyrics and the stuff that I love, you know, to life as the record was playing, you know, via live augmented reality, the lyrics would be flying off the vinyl and, you know, the visuals would be sort of surrounding you in the chamber and transforming the chamber into the world of each particular track.
What if a bot could learn the emotions that you're going through and produce music that talked to those emotions, and you didn't even realize, you know, you just think it's playing a track by some artist?
Yeah.
Could you see, I mean, could you see that being possible? Could you, like, or good? I mean, I agree with you. Music comes out of like the emotional, like it's an emotional expression, and so taking the human out of the equation seems like the lack of emotion.
Well, it's not even emotion, it's intention, which again sounds really Sounds super esoteric, but I remember like intention has just always been a word that has been incredibly meaningful to me. And then when I first met Wynton Marsalis, the trumpet player, and we started sort of working together, I remember him talking about it, you know, with his own complete unique sort of context. And he said that his dad, before Wynton decided to be a musician, said he was, you know, he was also a musician, said, you know, Wynton, if it's your intention to make money through music, don't. But if it's your intention to uplift, do. And he said that really stuck with him. And that, so it's not even about emotion. It's like, it's kind of the inherent energy with which you bring something into the world and into being. And again, yeah, super esoteric, but I really believe in its power, and so I believe that it's more nuanced and more subtle than teaching robots how to emote. You know, it's actually a big part of, you know, why we are human. It's kind of the key to our humanity.